All right. So we're going to start this off with a little audience participation. Everybody ready? If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. So 2 questions. Are you happy? And do you know it? There have been centuries of exploration into happiness. People have tried to study it, quantify its impacts. A few famous quotes or quotes from famous people and not so famous people related to it. So to start off, Aristotle, happiness is the meaning and the purpose of life, the whole aim and end of human existence. So, no pressure. There's one from John Stuart Mill. Ask yourself whether you are happy and you cease to be so. It's not very promising. Norm Papernick. Those who can laugh without cause have either found the true meaning of happiness or have gone stark raving mad. Sorry. There's one from Robert Anthony. Most people would rather be certain they're miserable than risk being happy. I know a few people like that. Here's one from Leo Tolstoy. If you want to be happy, be. Well, there you go, problem solved. The last one I'm going to talk about is a Chinese proverb. If you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. If you want happiness for a lifetime, help someone else. So I like that last one because it generally lines up with what the American Humanist Association states about happiness. One of the key items from the Humanist Manifesto 3 is the following. Working to benefit society maximizes individual happiness. Progressive cultures have worked to free humanity from the brutalities of mere survival and to reduce suffering, improve society, and develop global community. We seek to minimize the inequities of circumstance and ability, and we support a just distribution of nature's resources and the fruits of human effort so that as many as possible can enjoy a good life. Now, I want everyone to remember that the Humanist Manifesto is a descriptive system. It's not a prescriptive one. It talks about what humanists do believe rather than telling people what they should believe. A couple of things from this, makes me wonder if the size and structure of the society that you're in matter for this formulation. I'm also curious about this a good life bit. So one of those, the meaning of life is to live a life of meaning kind of things. One of the things that they call out is freeing people from the brutalities of mere survival, reducing suffering, improving society, and developing global community. And those are actions that you can take. But are the actions happiness itself? Kind of. Knowing that you have a purpose and are working to fulfill it brings about satisfaction, and that's been described as a kind of happiness. Human society currently does kind of an awful job of some of the later parts, minimizing inequities of circumstance and abilities, supporting a just distribution of nature's resources, a just distribution of the fruits of human effort. So clearly there's a lot that can be done. And it turns out making a small bit of progress on any of those can yield a batch of personal happiness. You can bask in that happy glow, and then you can still go back for more. But the distance of what needs to be done from where we are now can also be a bit overwhelming. It can lead to exhaustion and burnout, depression. So it isn't just about the actions. There are other components. The most interesting thing to me about this approach to happiness is that it's a positive feedback loop. We can all derive some individual joy, some personal satisfaction out of making the worldwide system of humanity better, for this definition of better. But every time we do so, it makes our starting place for our next effort just a little bit better. It makes our baseline nicer. It means we're spending less of our energy fighting survival, enduring suffering, or overcoming inequities. And we have more of that time and energy available for making things even better. It's a network effect where we benefit from our own efforts, but also the efforts of everyone else. And that's really a message of hope. I think it's a little bit inspirational. So why are we bothering with happiness anyway? Dr. Sonia Lyubomirsky has gotten a lot of attention over the last 13 years for her research contributions to the study of happiness. And she and her teams and colleagues have identified a few distinct benefits to happiness. One, happiness is good for our health. Happy people are less likely to get sick and they live longer. Happiness is good for our relationships. Happy people are more likely to get married and have fulfilling marriages, and they have more friends. Happy people make more money and are more productive at work. Happy people are more generous. Happy people cope better with stress and trauma. We could all use a little help with that. Happy people are more creative and are better able to see the big picture. So they've been doing a lot of research on some of the benefits, but what does it say about how to actually achieve happiness? And one of the things that Dr. Lyubomirsky has found is that happiness is 50% from our genes. We have no control whatsoever over 50% of our odds at happiness. So if you're an unhappy person, a large portion of that is not your fault. An additional 10% comes from life circumstance. And that leaves only 40% due to your daily actions. And you might see that as a little depressing, but I'd like to borrow some ideas from the Stoics and focus your attention on the part that you can control. 40% of your happiness relies on your own daily actions. And that's a significant chunk. There's evidence to back up the idea that you personally can take measures to improve your own happiness. So how do you do it? Well, the happiness doctor has a few scientifically backed suggestions for things to try. Practice number one is called the awe narrative. So you're going to think about and describe a time when you experienced awe. And we've had a talk about experiencing awe as an atheist here previously. And that's a good thing to practice. It's a good thing to recall. Imagine your best possible self, your life going as well as it possibly could, and then write about this best possible future. It's one of those visualization techniques. Imagine your best possible self for relationships. Imagine your relationship or relationships going as well as they possibly could. Same kind of idea. Mental subtraction of positive events. Visualize what your life would be like without the good things that you have. And that'll help reinforce some of those ideas about how happy you might actually be because of those positive things. And this one I've had some experience with, and it can be a little bittersweet, but at the same time, it can be very meaningful and impactful. Looking at meaningful photographs, look at a picture that reminds you of something important in your life and write about it. Write about the things that are meaningful to you. The gift of time, invest in your relationships by spending quality time with the people you care about. Can have, again, what's one of those kind of network effect things where you derive some happiness out of spending time with them, but it also helps make those relationships stronger. And so I want to kind of switch over to some of the big picture items from Dr. Lubomirski's research and from the research of some of the others. And one of the biggest findings from some of this research into happiness is that social connections are key to happiness. It's important to build relationships. Another one is pursuing happiness indirectly. Rather than trying to focus on constantly monitoring your emotions and striving to feel better, just try organizing your daily life around activities that you naturally enjoy. Some of the things I'll mention here in a moment may qualify for that. Practice savoring, like really savor those positive feelings that you're having. It's going to help you be more aware of them, but also help you appreciate them more. Practice giving thanks. People who keep gratitude journals feel more optimism and greater satisfaction with their lives. Research shows writing a gratitude letter to someone you've never properly thanked brings a major boost of happiness. And it's not just to you, it's also to them. Practice kindness. Get physical, do some exercise. It's great for your body and for your mind. It increases your happiness and self-esteem and has a host of other benefits. Spend time in nature. People who are more connected to nature tend to experience more positive emotions, vitality, and life satisfaction. And that kind of feeds into the awe aspect as well. Have that awe, savor your time in nature. Get rest. Some of you may have heard of Daniel Kahneman, is a Nobel Prize winning psychologist. He found that getting just one more hour of sleep each night might have a greater impact on happiness than a $60,000 raise. If you are sleep deprived, just stop it. It is not doing you any favors. And pay attention. Studies show that people who practice mindfulness are going to have stronger immune systems, more likely to be happy, and enjoy greater life satisfaction, and less likely to be hostile or anxious, which is going to impact your relationships with people around you. And that, again, is going to have an impact on your own personal happiness. So building relationships is called out as one of the biggest happiness boosters that you can have. And focusing on helping others is called out as being more beneficial than focusing on yourself. And I want to tie that back to this original description of humanist happiness, where they're talking about working to benefit society maximizes individual happiness. And there's all this constant reinforcement there. Every time you're doing something that's benefiting society, you get that personal boost. You get that satisfaction out of it. And that's great, but it also makes everything else around you better. And so the description that the humanist approach to happiness lists, and it's kind of as suspected, has a pretty strong overlap with scientifically demonstrated ways to maximize personal happiness. So that's good news. That's great. Kind of related to that, we were having a discussion with the Stoicism group, and somebody mentioned what it might be like to create a happiness pyramid, kind of like the food pyramid or Maslow's hierarchy. And so based on what I've mentioned earlier, maybe the base of that pyramid would be virtuous activity that helps build everything else. And on top of that, relationships. You have those interactions with other people that through your virtuous actions help make both of those stronger. And then maybe there's self-development on there, working on improving yourself. And then on top, if you've got that good strong foundation and you've developed those relationships and helped make society better, maybe you get a little small triangle of more pure hedonism on top. That's a little bit more fleeting, a little bit more in the moment. But if you have that strong foundation, isn't necessarily a bad thing to pursue. So sometimes we're unhappy, and that's okay. Just as with meditation, start again. Find ways to make your community and society better, and start taking the steps to realize that ideal. Sometimes we're happy and we don't notice it. And at first, that might seem to be a little bit tragic. But when you consider that many of us spend a lot of our lives in a state that Aristotle described as the whole aim of human existence, that's pretty darn good. And remember, he didn't suggest that we needed to be aware of it. Sometimes we're happy and we know it, so we clap our hands. That's it. Thank you very much.